Hey guy, and welcome to another live stream here on the channel. My name is Alex. If you're new here to the channel, in today's live stream we are going to continue where we left off the previous week, where we created a wireframe in Adobe XD for a VR website. And before we get started, I'd just like to welcome everybody to the chat. Hi everybody. Hi Usman. I'm sad you're not going to be here, but don't worry. As usual, live stream recording is going to be stored on the channel. Today we are live streaming to multiple places. You can follow me on my YouTube channel, which is Alex on Design. You can find me on Behance as well. There I am as Web Donut. And don't forget, because this is a website live stream, you can get my Inception design system, which is the biggest design system for Adobe XD ever created, at inceptiondesignsystem.co. And if you want, you can get all of my courses, practice files, including this one, which I'm going to share with you in today's tutorial, on my website alexondesign.co. So without any further ado, let me get started. And before I do, actually, this is the paper wireframe that we created in last week's episode. So we took this paper wireframe and then we took it over to Adobe XD, where we turn it into a wireframe. But this is basically the paper which I was using, which is black dot grid piece of paper. So if you don't have this piece of paper, as I mentioned in the first live stream of this series, don't worry, you can use any kind of piece of paper. Once again, hey to the chat, hey everybody, and let's now go ahead and get started. So this is the practice file which we are going to be working on in today's live stream. And once again, if you want to get it, make sure to check out my website, which is alexondesign.co. There you're going to be able to find this file, and you can follow along if you want to. And one more thing before I move on with this project is I want to show you the collection of these elements which I was using, because I always like to use these elements from premium websites like Envato Elements, for example, like in this case, because there is just a much bigger selection of vast variety of elements out there. And because we are going to be using some videos are a great resource to find on Envato Elements as well. And just one more quick thing on videos. Recently Adobe XD launched a new update, and now you can get up to 25 megabytes of videos in your Adobe XD project. So just another great update from the team there. As I mentioned, I want to show you this collection. So this is the collection from Envato Elements I was using. And just a quick side note, I wasn't using all of these elements which you are going to see right here, but I just compiled this great collection of VR elements, and you're going to see this character used, for example, in just a second in this design. But I just wanted to show you this great collection. So if you want, you can check it out. Link is going to be in the chat, and I'm also going to post a link in the description of my YouTube video of this live stream when it ends, so you can check this collection out if you want to follow along this tutorial and to change some elements inside, or if you want to create completely different project, you can do that as well. So this is just that collection, so you can access it quite easily. You can license all of these elements, you can add them to a collection. So Envato Elements, really highly recommended. But let's go back to our design. So this is where we left off the previous time, and in the previous week's episode. Let me quickly launch this preview and hide myself so you can see it. So this is what we created. We just have a simple logo right here. We have our main navigation right here, and I wanted to keep it simple and explain all of the advantages and elements that you can get for this VR experience down in the page. As you can see, we don't have any videos in the background, we don't have any effects. We're going to add that in today's live stream and in the next week's live stream, where we're going to actually animate all of these elements. And as you can see, we have this nice section with a blob shape. Then we are going to include animation right here. We're going to make these buttons in color. I'm going to show you all of that. We're going to bring all kinds of different icons and illustrations right here. We're going to bring different images with masks. I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to include a video right here. Then here we're going to have 3 different sections with different products. Here we're going to have testimonial image. We're going to adjust a few things here and there. Then here we're going to bump in and include another image right between this button and this text. Finally, here we're going to include some images, and the last image is going to go here and one in the footer right here. So as I said, without any further ado, let's get started. First things first, I'm going to remove our grid because we don't need it. We just basically finished with this design. So I want to duplicate this because I want to make a few changes, and the main changes which I'm going to make to this design is actually in its size, because now when we include different images, we need to make changes to our spacing. So for example, for these blob shapes, when we include these images inside, we're actually going to adjust the spacing to the top, to the bottom, and same for all of these other sections, including this one which I mentioned, where I'm going to drag and drop an image inside. So let's get started. And first things first, I'm going to do is here I'm going to call it a design. So for example, if I share this with my clients or teammates or whoever, they are going to be able to tell that this is a design, and this right here is a wireframe. Obviously this is a paper wireframe, and it's the one which I showed you previously. I just went ahead and took a picture of it and then simply draw it into Adobe XD, dropped it inside just to keep it handy. So if I'm presenting this to my clients, for example, they're going to be able to see my thought process, and I share this with them already as well, so they are familiar with it. Now let's get started. And first things first, I want to jump inside of here in our hero section, duplicate this video BG and call it color overlay. And this color overlay basically is just going to be there when I drop my video inside. So I'm going to copy a color. This is the color which I'm going to be using, so it's 242424. Drop it inside, and basically I'm going to go right here, click, add it to my colors, and I'm going to call it main dark, like this. And this main dark color in my color overlay, I'm going to drop it down to 60%. You can just hit 6 on your keyboard and you're going to be able to drop it inside. Then what I need is some sort of a differentiating color. So in this case, I'm going to choose a blue color. So I'm going to go ahead and select this button. I'm going to drop this color in, so it's 00B1FF. So it's going to be a nice blue color. I'm going to add it right here, and I'm going to call it, for example, main or dark blue. Dark blue like this. And I like to use these dashes. So if you've never used these dashes, then basically what you can do is you can select them and organize them like that. You can make underscores, you can make these dashes, you can make slashes, so whatever you want to include inside. I just like to use these dashes inside of my design. So whatever you want to use, you can use it there as well. Just make sure to keep on the same track as your developers, because in majority of times you have to agree with them in order for you to be able to pull this off, because you don't want later in code to have any kind of confusion. I'm not going to turn this into a component just yet. I'm going to do this next week, when I'm actually going to expand up on this design and perhaps include a few changes here and there up on my original design, just so that you can see where you can take this design if you take it from my membership and if you download it and follow along. I want to use white right here because I think it's going to work quite nicely. Then what I can do is do the same here. So dark blue, I'm going to make sure that this is white, for example, because we have this artboard color, if you remember. So selected right here, artboard color. So now what I need is to select a few images. So I'm going to go back to here. I have my blob shape, and before I duplicate it, I want to basically include a few images. So just let me find these images. So my first image is of a girl holding a VR. So I'm going to drag and drop it right here outside because it's quite big. So I'm going to drop it here, and I'm going to hold Shift, Alt, and left click to scale it down into position to roughly around here maybe. I think that's good, but I want her shoulder to go just outside of this blob shape and her elbow to go outside of this shape as well. So now what I need to do is to turn this blob into a different color. So I'm going to actually jump inside of my original design just to see which color that was. Actually, it. Go back and Let's first of all call this, instead of dark blue, let's call it main blue. Let's go back. We're outside, right click, rename. I'm going to call this main blue, like this. And then I'm going to select my blob shape, drop this new color inside, which is 86D7FB. And when I press enter, you can see that this is now the lighter shade of this blue color. So let's jump inside of here and give it a name of light blue, because I'm going to have 3 variations of this blue color. That's fine. And now just to cover it off, because you can see that we have this ugly cut right here at the bottom of our image, and that's because this image is of course PNG. So to hide that, what I want to do is just make sure that if I drop the opacity, the woman goes all the way outside of the blob like she is right here. Then what I'm going to do is duplicate my blob shape, call it mask for example, double click mask, put it on top, and then select all of them, hit Shift Control M or Shift Command M, and call this, for example, blob or girl or whatever. So let's call it girl image, because later when you export, you actually want to export all the visible parts of this image and not the actual blob itself per se. So how can you do this? It's actually quite simple. Just take your mask, double click anywhere on your shape, like this. Actually try to scale it up just a bit. Oh, so that's actually a bit difficult to do. So let's try another way. If I select it, use my pen tool. There we go. Now we have all of these anchor points. What I'm going to do is basically click on one of these anchor points. I'm able to see them, so I'm going to hide this. How can I do this? It's always much simpler when you do this outside. So let's first hide this. Yeah, it's not going to work. So let's try another way. So I'm going to bring this, and I'm actually going to just scale this mask into this direction perhaps. Now when it goes outside, I want to be able to click on it like I did. There we go. And now I just want to expand it to see all of these visible parts. So just like this. So I want to be able to expand these parts. I'm not going to touch these bottom parts because I need them to stay where they are. I'm going to click on this one, something like this, or perhaps where her jacket meets, somewhere around here, maybe I can add another anchor point. So just click to add it. And now when I move this anchor point is actually going to stay in place. You can see it right here. So when I go outside, adjust it. Basically the only part which needs adjusting is this to roughly around here. There we go. And you can lower it down even more, slightly around here. And now when I click outside, basically we have this shape. If I hide my icon BG, you can see how it looks like. Obviously you can play around with these settings, you can adjust them any way you want, but basically this is how I did it the first time. So when I select my mask, you can see how it looks like. This is my woman and this is my blob background. Now let's go ahead and bring our icon background in. I'm going to hide my border color, and basically I want to drop in and select my icon. I want to paste it in. This is my icon. There we go. And this is the animated icon. You can see it loops and plays automatically. So if I hit a quick preview right here, you can see how it looks like. Of course, this is, as I said, from Envato Elements, and they have thousands of these animated icons. But if you want, you can also use free versions. They are just not going to look consistent. If you go to your plugins right here and click on Lottie files, and I need to log in right here, but it's going to be a search bar right here. You can enter VR and just see what it pops up, and if you have any available options for VR. If you don't, then you will have to use the premium version. Same thing right here. I'm just going to select these two. duplicate my icon BG, call this one mask, and put it on top, and just hold my shift and control M to mask all of it. And I'm going to call this, let's say, VR ICN VR icon. There we go. And now basically what I want is to select this one, jump inside of here, use my main dark because I want it to stand out a bit more, and you can see how much more readable it is now that I changed that color. And also I want to use another color for my paragraph. So I want to select this color and I want to go right here and change it to this, so it's 565656. When I apply it, you're not going to be able to see a massive change, but it is a big change because it's going to be more readable. So I'm going to drag it just below here and call it paragraph. There we go. And now that I have my colors in place, I have my elements in place, I'm going to worry about the styling at the very end because I want to put all my elements in place. Now that I have it, I'm going to select this one. I'm going to change it to main dark. I'm going to change this one to paragraph. There we go. And now for these next ones, I'm going to switch this to main. I'm going to switch this to paragraph. And of course, you can go ahead and play around with all of these settings to find the one which you really like and to find the one which really works for you. And of course, you can go online and find all of these readability charts just to see if your elements are readable or not. That's basically it right here. And now I need to bring in my illustrations. So I'm going to jump in right here to this one, bring in my illustration somewhere around here because this is supposed to represent the education. I'm going to remove it from here and I'm going to make sure to select my card and my education, snap it in the center, and then use another trick with my rectangle right around here. And just make sure to position these two in the center. Of course, because all of these are going to be different and you're going to see that in just a second, I want to just make sure that it is in the center like this, and then do what I can do for the positioning between my top and my bottom. If I hold my Alt or Option, you can see it's 48.5 and 65. So we'll just have to nudge it until it's roughly in the middle, roughly around here. So 56 and 57, something like that. It's going to work just fine for this example. Now let's move on to music, and I also have another one. I'm going to drop it in right here. Select my cards, make sure it's in the center, get rid of this circle and do one more time. So 54, I'm holding Alt by the way, or Option on the Mac. 54 and we are 60, so just lower it down a bit so you can see right here we are 57 and 57. So now that that's done, we have one more. I'm going to select it right here. It's called Meta. There we go. Because as I mentioned in the previous stream, Meta is actually quite huge these days and it's sort of a buzzword, which is going to be, in my opinion, even bigger buzzwords in years to come. So let's see where we are right here. So I should go to the top right around here. There we go. And now that all of our cards are in place, colors are changed, we can now move on to this next section. In this section, do the same. So I'm going to go main dark, main paragraph. I'm going to select this to be main blue. There we go. And from this one, I'm going to start with my icon this time. I'm going to select it from my original design. There we go. Make sure it's in the center of this section, like this. Duplicate this one, call it mask. Position it right here. Control M, and I'm going to call this one gaming. See, because this section talks about gaming, as you can see. Then we have the blob, so we can do the same thing. So we can duplicate this, call it mask, like this, and simply hide this. Select my blob, make sure to change its color to light blue, and then select, drag and drop my image inside. There we go. As you can see, image is quite huge. So one quick thing I can give you is just make sure to scale your images down appropriately. so you don't have any file size issue. Make sure you are here at the bottom, and if you cannot see, simply lower down your opacity like this. I'm going to snap it right around here. There we go. Just like that. And what I'm going to do for this one is perhaps cut it where his shirt ends, perhaps roughly around here. Maybe I can move this outside even more. So let's see what we can do with this one. So I'm going to position it below here, man VR. I'm going to show my mask and hit Shift Command M or Shift Control M. And I'm going to call this man VR, for example. Yep, that's it. Just bring this to 100. I'm going to select my mask, bring it just outside, double click on it. So that's the technique. And if you need to add another anchor point, you can do it right here. Just make sure to show his head, and I'm going to basically stop it roughly around here. So here, and then make sure to extend this, and we have another one right here. So I'm going to extend it all the way to here, extend this one up to the top, roughly around here. There we go. And now we can play around with this. So if you're happy with how this looks like, then you don't have to touch anything, but you can add just another anchor point, click here and show a bit more of his shirt or whatever this is if you want to. I'm just going to leave it like this for now because I think it's good. His head comes out, and of course you can add all sorts of different elements right here. So you can click and add all sorts of elements. For example, like this, I'm going to hit escape. I was using pen tool, hit 5 for example, then click right here, and then I can jump and add, let's say, watercolor, just to add a quick shape right there, like that. And for example, I can put it right here, or even better, I can maybe rotate it like this, just to give another playful note to this one. So I can hit on this point, hit delete to remove it, just to make this one a bit smaller, and I can position it right around here. So you get the point. You can simply add all of these different elements just to accentuate your design a little bit and give it a bit more personality or a bit more interest. But because I don't want to do that right now, I'm going to delete it. There we go, redefine gaming. We are good to go. And now we can move on to this section. What we need in this section is basically the same story. So I'm going to go with color overlay right here. So I'm going to duplicate this one, call it, for example, video, color, overlay, check the music, sure it's running. Let me hide the chat. Hi DS, nice of you to be here. Hi Tatiana, please do in Figma. I'm using XD at the moment, but basically it's almost the same process in Figma. Hi Carpios, nice of you to be here. And going back to Figma, basically the only difference is you're going to be using a lot of frames. Well, in XD, all of the things are happening inside of artboards. And another big difference is pages. You're going to have different pages, while in XD, everything happens in one single document. So it's all up to preferences, and basically almost everything is exactly the same. One major difference is a lot of the animations are not natively supported in Figma. You're going to need to export them as GIFs, while here, and import them as GIFs, while here they are natively imported as JSON files. And I'm going to actually show you that. So let me see where I can find them. Lodi, here they are. So this is the folder which I downloaded from Envato Elements, and you can see that for every single icon we have this JSON file format, while in Figma you have to use GIFs. So that's basically the only difference. And if you're using plugin, which I showed you previously right here, so the Lodi files, it works the same in XD and in Figma. While in XD it draws in native Lodi files, so these JSON files, while in Figma you have to use GIFs, which are obviously lower quality and bad for export later. So that's basically the only difference. Let's now go back to our design. What I forgot to set up right here, speaking about Lodi, is if I select my icon right here, I want it to play automatically. And actually, let's do a quick preview right here and see how it looks like. So you can see that Lottie animation is happening in the background, and because I set it to loop endlessly, basically it's going to loop around and around in circles. And great thing about XD, in one single file we have multiple Lottie animations happening in real time. I really like how this looks like, but once again, if you want to add all sorts of different elements right here, or maybe a background circle or something like that, to make this image stand out a bit more, you can do that as well. Let's go back to this video right here. So as I said, video color overlay, I'm going to select my main dark, hit 6 on my keyboard to lower it down to 60%. And then I need to find my video, which I'm going to include there. There we go. Drag, drop it inside. Everything went blank for a second, but don't worry about it. It's just my monitor. So I'm going to call this video. Bring in my color overlay. And for the video, woman using VR, I want to say play on tap. Why play on tap? Because there is still not an option in XD for multiple videos to play at the same time. I heard some rumors here and there that it is going to come soon. So you are going to be able to drag and drop all of these different videos inside. All of them are going to play at the same time. But for now, you still have to play one video at a time. You can play Lottie and video at the same time, which is a recent update they did. So this leads me to believe that they are going to include that update as well, where multiple videos are going to be able to play at the same time, which I think is going to be quite nice. So now let's test it out, see how it looks like. So if I hit preview and go to that section, click on it. There we go. So now our video is playing. And of course, if you think it's too long, there is an option inside. Let me actually show you. So go where your video is, and right here you can click on it. And here, let me actually hide myself so you can see it. You can actually trim it down. You can drag in another image as a thumbnail image. You can, for example, say for it to start right here, to end right here. You can mute it. You can loop playback, so it's going to loop round and round in circle, just like these Lottie animations. So basically, those are your settings. But because this is a short video, I'm not going to play around with those settings too much. So let's now move on to this section, which is the cutting edge section. And here, as I explained in the previous live stream, I want to include a few images here and there, and I want to animate them on hover. So let's go and do just that. But before we do, actually, because I'm in my videos folder, let's go all the way to the top, because I didn't include a video here. So here, color overlay, I'm going to hide it. Video background, I'm going to drag and drop video number 1. There we go. And you can click on your video, you can see where the edges are, and you can play around with it if you want to. I'm going to call it video. And for this particular video, I want to play automatically. If I show my color overlay, and now if I hit preview just to show you how it looks like, you can see that now we have this video playing in the background. When it ends, as it did right now, because it's super short, it's going to stop. So let me actually preview that one more time. And this is the effect we are going to go in the next week's live stream. I'm going to show you how to stitch these different videos for them to loop and play in the background. But this is the main issue. So you can just imagine that this video is playing in the background and your user wants to go all the way down to this video. You cannot make two videos play at the same time. That's why we included this, just to show to our clients, because later on in code this can easily be achieved. You just want to show to your clients and explain to them. Just imagine in code, when the website is live, this is going to play at the same time as that video on top. So now that that's completed, let's go ahead and move on to this section. As I said, let me find my images, which I'm going to use. So first image is going to be for this, so Explorer 2. But before we move on to that, make sure to change this to main dark, make sure to update to paragraph, and I'm going to go ahead and change this to main dark, and main dark, and I'm going to select this and give it main blue, for example, something like that. Or maybe we can even achieve a different color. So let me see. Edit. Now let's play around with that different color a bit later. So as I said, let's quickly drag and drop our images inside. So I'm going to drag this image right here. Make sure to position it in my Explorer 2. right here, and simply hold my shift key to scale it down into position right around here. There we go. Make sure I nudge it a little bit, because later on in animation I can either scale it on hover, or I can rotate it on hover, or I can maybe fade it in on hover or do something like that. But basically I want to position it right here. Hold your Alt or Option just to see where you are with this. I'm going to make sure to be 45 right here, 44 right here. There we go. And I want to make sure that this is in the center. There we go. For the controller, I want to drag and drop my controller inside of here. I want to drop it onto the card, because that way it's going to populate my card. I just want to place it nice right here. And the same story for the hover right here. You can do the same effect. So maybe let's scale it up a little bit. So on hover, I'm just going to rotate it maybe like this or like this. We're going to see that. But for now, let's just make sure it's in the center and make sure to position it roughly around here. Maybe even put it in the center between this text and this text. So I'm already changing my original design slightly. There we go. I think that fits quite nicely. And now finally, for this last section, what I want to do is to make sure to include a blue background here. So I'm going to select it, select my main blue. Get ideas can stay this color, but this link should be white. Get inspired. There we go. And here what I want to include is an image. So let's go with this image. It's going to be a woman using VR, and this is actually a PNG image once again from Envato Elements. And you get this PNG by rotating your 3D model, and you can rotate it in any position that you want. I'm going to position it roughly around here, maybe something like that, maybe just a tiny bit smaller. There we go. And perhaps I want to rotate it. No, actually, let's leave it as it was, roughly around here. There we go. And what I want to do is the same thing, so I'm going to put it right here, hit Ctrl D on this one, call it mask, simply position it on top of our entire card. Or no, actually, let's move this image down, Shift Ctrl M to mask it, call this mask. There we go. And the only thing which I want is to expand my mask on top right here, just for me to be able to see this image. And later on in hover, we are going to play around with it a bit more, but you can see how this looks like. It already looks quite good. Perhaps we can even move this image a bit to center right here, so that we have this pattern going around. So maybe in that case, this shouldn't be in center, but roughly around here. There we go. So that section is done. Let's now move on to the next section, which is the testimonials. And for my testimonials, basically the same thing. So I just want to make sure that this is dark. This is paragraph color. And for these, I want to make sure this is blue. And I want to apply the same border color. And then I want to select these three, go back to my colors, right click, apply border color to change it from gray to this nice blue color. There we go. And finally, what I want to do right here is to make sure that this outline color is changed. So I want to select this background shape, testimonial shape, right click, apply border color. There we go. And now the last thing which is left for me to do is to drag and drop my image inside of here. It's a man using VR, once again from that Envato Elements collection, which I showed you. And there we go. You can see how simple this is once you actually collect all of your items. Now for this one, I want to change this to dark, change this to paragraph, change this to main blue. There we go. And finally, here is where things are going to be different. So first things first, I'm going to expand my artboard all the way down like this. Then I'm going to select these sections and move them down out of the way. Select my button, move it down out of the way. And now I'm going to bring in my image inside of here. There we go. And because this image is just too big, I'm going to lower it down slightly. Just like this. Make sure it's in the center. There we go. Make sure it's roughly around here, maybe 100. Like that, and then maybe position the button to be, I don't know, 150 or something. Let's see how that looks like really quick. When I launch my preview window, scroll all the way down. So this looks quite good, this looks good, and this looks fine, but maybe, I don't know, maybe we can lower it down just a bit in size, and then on hover make this image scale up a little bit just to make it, we can even make it a link, because now there is a hyperlink option in XD as well. So when they click there, they're going to be able to go to the page, same like with this button right here. So let's do that. I'm going to select it, hold my shift, alt, left click just to scale it down a bit, and make sure to be 100 here, and make sure to be, let's say 100 here. Let's see how that looks like. Scroll all the way down. Yeah, much better, because now you can see the button and it still leaves us this space for it to scale. We're not going to let it scale too much, but it's just going to give us this nice effect. Let me quickly check the chat. Emmanuel is here. Hi, Emmanuel. Hope you're having a good day. Akram has a question. He says, I saw a course on Skillshare. Your teaching style is really impressive. Make a course for dashboard design in a full page. There is no good tutorial and course for dashboard design. Actually, there is. Make sure to check out my Adobe XD masterclass. Inside of it, I created multiple dashboard pages. So we created a website in XD, and for that website, we created these dashboards inside. So make sure to check out that course. I see that you're watching on Skillshare. It is on Skillshare there as well. So make sure to check it out. All people just make one page tutorial, we need full dashboard design. I did it inside of that masterclass. Make sure to check it out. And for that particular tutorial, I also showed how to create it responsive, how to make sure to lower it down to a few different breakpoints. I think something like 3 or 4 different breakpoints. Don't hold me accountable to it. Just make sure to check it out if you're watching this on Skillshare. So let's go back to our design. So now that we finished this, I want to make sure to move this down below right here, all in one. There we go. And now I want to bring this back. As I said, don't worry about spacing just yet. We are going to deal with it in just a second. So for this, shop accessories. So let's go to my original example. I want to make sure to change this to main, this to main, this to paragraph, and do the same for all of these other ones. So there we go. And I want to make sure to change this entire card to main dark. Instead of this, we can use white, or we can use this artboard color. I think it's going to work just fine, because it's not completely white, so it's not going to scream to you too much. So for this carrying case, I just want to drag and drop my image inside. It's quite huge, and once again, this is a 3D model from Envato Elements, and you can see, because we were using stacks, you can see how smart this is in XD. When I drag and drop these elements inside, they're going to move in real time alongside to adjust for the spacing which we wanted it to be. So I'm going to put it right here and make sure to lower down the opacity. So once you actually go inside of the constraints of your actual box, it's going to stay there. So just make sure it's in the center. 406 by 406, just to make sure to do the same for this one. But this one is going to be quite different actually, because we need to use a mask. So you can see the same thing happening again. As they start moving, they start adjusting. So let's actually make sure this is in the center, roughly around here maybe. And because you can see this bottom part sticking out, I'm just going to hit Control D, duplicate it, call this mask, and do the same thing. So Shift Control M to mask it in place. And now actually I can even scale it up just a touch like this, move this down just a touch like this, because if you remember from the original example I showed last week, it is going to scale and lower down in place. So call it image, for example. There we go. This is where we are going to leave without any images, so it's going to be fine like this. Let's quickly go ahead and change this to main dark, switch this to paragraph. And I'm going to use another image right here. So light blue, and I'm going to get rid of this border. So let's quickly go ahead and select my icon, Control V, paste it in place, like so. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure to duplicate this, call it mask. You can see the pattern happening right here. Hit Control M, and we are going to call this, let's see, Explore BRICN, something like that. For it, I want to make sure it plays automatically and it is on loop, like all the other ones. Hit Control D on the blob, call it mask, hide it in place, and I just have to find my image. It's this one, but because this woman is not facing in this direction and I wanted her to face in this direction, just head on over to here, rotate it, place it in place. There we go. Adjust it roughly around here. Once again, use the same trick. You can use your keyboard shortcut. So 4 on your keyboard is for 40%, for example, for the opacity. Hold shift just to scale it up like this, and make sure to position her roughly around here, just to make it interesting. Sort of here. And for her, I want her to, let's say, go out of here maybe. So just behind this this icon, because my icon goes right here, you can see it. So I just want this arm bit to go outside of this blob shape and not the entire arm, because it's cut off right here, you can see it. And for here, I just want to keep this nice blob shape and just go outside of here. So let me position here, go to 100%, bring in my mask, and let's see how we called her, woman VR2, like that. And for the mask, I just want to extend it just a touch, double click inside, same story like we did previously, add another anchor point here and here, just so that we can expand this area and this area to cover the portion of our image. Don't go too crazy because you will have to scale these down. You can adjust these left and right just to get a perfect angle that you want. And now finally, for that arm, I want to add another anchor point right around here and here. So when I extend this arm bit, I can add another one right around here, and this arm I can bring it roughly around here. So you see the point, it just goes behind this icon, so it's not going to be fully visible. It's a bit different than to what I created originally, but I think it's going to work just fine. You can cover this portion as well. You can see I just slightly left it outside, but you can go back and cover it entirely if you want to, or you can add another anchor point right here and then move this anchor point. You can really do whatever you want with this design and use any kind of approach that you want. So now that that's done, I want to close these sections and work on my footer, because that's the only section which is left. And before I do, actually, I forgot to change this to my main blue. There you go. And use this as a paragraph. And you're going to notice I still didn't include my third blue color, so don't worry about it. We can either include it in this live stream, or maybe go back next week and play around with it, because I think that we can include it because we have these blue elements. So this, and this. So maybe we can just save it for later, and I can select this one, for example, click right here and call it dark blue. So because this is a highlight color, maybe we can use it throughout our design. Let's say that for this example, which I just shared with you. So if I just inside of here, let's close in this icon and go to here. So redefine gaming. So man VR, just in the background of him, I can, for example, position this ellipse, make sure it's in the background, make sure to select dark blue so you can see what I'm talking about. You can even duplicate this shape and, for example, place it right here, light blue, and then you can go crazy with it. You can even use this main blue and let's say put it roughly around here or whatever, and then you can play around with opacity, so both of them are at 40%, so you get the whole picture. You can just play around with these elements if you want to, just to include a bit more of visual interest in the background of your image. So with all of that completed, the only thing left for us to do is to complete this footer. So what I'm going to do with the footer is actually quite simple. I'm going to jump in right here, make sure to select my main dark text. I'm not going to deal with it. I'm going to simply select this image, Control C, and go outside, Control V, and slide it just right to roughly around here maybe. I don't want it to cut text on top too much. I just want it to slide right here, or even better, I can maybe hide the entire footer to roughly around here. Make sure it's all the way at the back, Control D, call this one mask. So same story, Shift Control M, and then go right inside of here. So footer, PG, and simply lower down the opacity of your VR device to, let's say, 20% or 10% or something like that, because we want to achieve this ghosting effect in the background. So you can see how it looks like just a VR device, or even better, because this was a mock-up and I simply open up this mock-up in Adobe Photoshop, and this goes back to the person asking why not use Figma, because you cannot, Tatiana, you cannot do this in Figma. So I can basically open up that mock-up in Photoshop, edit it up, then open that image right here in XD. I don't like it. I can then hit edit, go back to Photoshop, edit it up, and I can go back and create another Creative Cloud library. So here I have my document assets, but you can see I created a few of these different assets right here. So you can just imagine this is for another project, but you have all of these images inside of your Creative Cloud library. You can use these images, or you can use those mockups which I mentioned. You can use icons, you can use videos, you can use Lottie. So you can basically create these libraries, and you can share them with your teammates, which I think is amazing. Anyone on your team can access them. You can hit document assets to go back to your document assets, and you can work like that, which none other creative tool, as I'm aware of, cannot do. So now let me end this waffling along, and let's work on our spacing. Before we do, I want to hit Control S to save this design. Akram says full website and dashboard for bank account. Yes, we did that. Make sure to check that out. And I'm planning to do another huge course, but as you can imagine, these courses take a few months to complete. So that's why there are no new courses, big courses at the moment. I'm just focusing on the essence of XD and on the essence of UX design. So you can check that out if you're interested on my website. So what we can do is there are two things. First of all, you can group all of your elements. You can hit stack on all of your elements, and then you can include spacing there. This is the first approach I'm going to show you right here. And then the second approach is inside of that stack, you can adjust elements here and there. And then later on, when you adjust additional elements like play with animation or stuff like that, then that's going to scale. Or you can do that, organize it however you want, and then simply break out the stack and the padding. So this is how that's going to look like. I'm going to group all of them, Control G, and give it a name, for example, website or whatever. Hit stack right here and include a value of 150, for example. And because this section did not move, and you can see it grouped these two sections, now I have to ungroup them. There we go. And now you can see that this size is not all that good. We are 150 here, here, and here. So everywhere else we are 150, but I don't really like it. So what I'm going to do is jump inside it and add it to 200 like that. And then what you can do is double click on the section you don't want and simply bring it back. So I'm going to position this to be roughly around here, maybe at 0. So now we have inside of our preview window, we have this section coming in nice. Then we have 200. Then we have it right here. Then we have 200 like that. And then between these two, perhaps I should include a bit bigger spacing, like maybe 250 or 300. I like this one because this is going to scale, as you remember. We're going to add background shadows right here because I don't think they are needed right now. And we're going to animate this in the next week's live stream. As you can see, all of these icons work, which I forgot to mention. So this works, check out the video. Video works as well. There you go. And this one works as well. And finally, I think this spacing is unnecessary. It's just a bit too much. So let's go ahead and play around with it. So you can see 200, and here you can see it goes all the way to here. So I'm just going to ungroup them and bring this down to 0 to have the same effect as the one on top. There we go. So now when I preview finally, you can see how it looks like. So basically it just looks like the same spacing on top. 200, 200, just by hovering your mouse, you can see how this looks like. And inside of here, what we have is 153. So what you can do is basically put these into a group, then include this as a stack, 150, and make sure to exclude the stack, exclude the padding, and just ungroup these. So this is just a quick way for you to organize these. This is at 200, so I said maybe place it at 250 or 300. Let's see, it's a bit fiddly to adjust these 1 to 2 increment values. So 300, and do 300 here as well, just for the sake of it. Zoom in just a touch. So 300, there we go. I'm going to leave this as it is. So 200, and this is the one which I'm going to bring in a bit closer. So perhaps 150. Yeah, because of this spacing on top. And finally, this last one, we don't need it. We can bring it down to 0 like that. Let's hit preview one more time, and I'm hitting preview all the time just to be able to see how it looks like in my browser. So I think this one looks good. This spacing looks good. Of course, you can have exactly the same spacing everywhere. I just like to play around and see what works, what doesn't for this particular sections, just to see if bigger spacing is going to bring me a bigger field of view, like in this case, for example, because I want them to see this video in the center and to bring this video in the center of their attention. So you can do that just by adjusting spacing here and there. I like it, and I like this one. Yeah, it stands out because testimonials are obviously huge, and maybe you want to add a logo right here, so bring the text down, so you really need this extra spacing. You can still see the sections. This is going to grow, as we said. This looks good, this looks good, and finally this looks good as well because it's at the bottom. Final thing for this live stream for us to do is go to our website, hit stack, hit padding, and then ungroup. Why I did this is because sometimes it is going to leave the padding at your elements. You don't want it. You just want to get rid of the stack, get rid of the padding, and then ungroup your elements. Finally, double click, and this is the one option I would really like XD to have, is to clip the artboards at the bottom. I mentioned this a few times before, somewhere around here, just for me to be able to click, and it is going to clip that down at the bottom. But for now, I just have to click and drag and then zoom if I want to be extremely precise, and wait for it to click. There we go. So just a second, but as I mentioned, it's going to be nice if they add it into XD, just for you to be able to click, and then it's going to clip into place. Finally, what's left for us to do for this live stream is to preview it one more time and to see this video effect happening. So hit Control Enter. Let me hide myself. There it is. So video is playing in the background. We are going to add more videos in the next week's live stream. You can see this playing. You can see these. And of course, when you hover on each of these cards, you can play around with these elements. You can adjust them with auto animate or do whatever. This is playing in the background. Let's see this video playing. There we go. Cutting edge tech. We're going to add hover effects in the next week's live stream. We can play around with these settings. We can change these slides if we want to, all in one headset. This is going to hover, and of course these buttons are going to as well. This is going to hover, and this is playing, button is going to hover, and there we go. Of course, you can add another video right here in the footer, and you can set it on loop if you want to, but I don't really recommend footers, videos in footers, because they're just going to add too much on your file size and complexity. So there we go. That's our design for today. I really hope you enjoyed it. We have a question from Sirish. Did you do in-office job? I think what you mean is, did I work in the office? The answer is yes. I worked in the office a few times in my life and a few years back, but then when I started my own company, I like 7 years ago. From then on, I just worked for myself, and that's basically it. Thank you so much for following this live stream. Thank you for your time. Thank you for commenting in the chat. It was really nice having you here. Join me next week when we are going to actually go and animate this design and all of these animations which I just mentioned. Thank you so much for being with me, for sticking with me, and for letting me talk too much, because I know I talk too much. I just try to bring you guys as much value as possible, because it's always the thing with these live streams and courses. Just because you know something doesn't mean that everybody knows that particular thing. So I have to stop myself and just basically repeat all of these shortcut keys, and to repeat what I did a few times, just for everybody in the chat can understand. So sorry if you are proficient in XD or in UI UX design and just get bored with this, but I have to adjust, and I have to repeat that for everybody. Make sure, if you want to get this practice file, to go to my website alexondesign.co. Make sure to check out my YouTube channel. I'm almost at 10k, and we're going to have a raffle at 10k. Hopefully I'm going to give away a few prizes, so make sure to stick for that. Make sure to follow me on Behance. I'm at WebDonut there, which is sort of my business name. And also make sure to check out my Inception design system, which is the biggest design system for Adobe XD ever created. Make sure to check that. Thank you once again for being with me, for sticking with me, and until next time, take care.